Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And if you enjoy the kinds of things we talk about in these podcasts, please do like and subscribe, and you can also find out more at michaelneill.org. There's a quote that is I've been told was Carl Jung's favorite quote. It was apparently written in Latin over his office and on his tombstone. I haven't checked that to know if it's true. But the translation is essentially this: invoked or not invoked, God is present. And there's something about that I've always really liked. Now, I should probably clarify that to me, I hear the word God as synonymous with the oneness of life, the intelligent energy of life, the allness and the isness, the formless and the form. And so I always found it curious that whether we're thinking about it or not, it is always present. But part of what makes me curious about that is then, is there a value in invoking it? In other words, is there a value in deliberately paying attention to, presencing spirit, the invisible, the formless aspect of life? And what I've found is that every time I presence spirit, every time I invoke God in the sense that I'm talking about God, it amplifies it. It makes it louder. It makes everything brighter. It comes with a really nice feeling. And what I wanted to spend the rest of our time together in this quick podcast doing is just presencing spirit, or inviting you to present spirit, and just notice what you notice. So one of the ways that I will often make the distinction is between the spirit, or the breath of life, and the material, the stuff of life. And if you've ever been, and many of us have lost pets, if not been around another human who's lost their life, and you can tell that they're not there anymore. It's like the form is still there, but whatever that animating force was, it just isn't there anymore. We can always spot the difference between the quick and the dead, between life and lifelessness. And that aliveness, it's invisible to the eye. It has no form, but everything in form is made of it. The Scottish mystic Sid Banks said, "The life force beyond all things has no form, yet it gives form to all things." In A Course in Miracles, it says, "Only God exists." And the implication is that anything that we can see, touch, taste, smell is God in form, is spirit in material form. Another quote I always loved from Sid Banks is he said, "If you can see that everything is God, everything is made of no thing, it's all you need to live your life to the full." Sometimes I find that I can presence the invisible, I can presence spirit most easily by just noticing the space between things. So we're used to looking at things, but sometimes artists also get used to looking at the space inside which things exist, because it allows them to draw or paint or sculpt those things more easily. Another place where I spot it is noticing the space between thoughts. So no matter how busy your mind is, at some point the world stops, the thinking stops, And it only has to stop for just a microscopic second. And you start to sense the presence of something underneath the thoughts. Sometimes I think about it in terms of a silent mind. That a silent mind doesn't mean there's no noise. A silent mind is the space within which noise comes and goes. There's a great line in the movie Amadeus where the emperor doesn't like one of Mozart's compositions, and he's not very educated, and Mozart kind of is mocking him, and Mozart doesn't come off terribly well in much of that movie. But the emperor's trying to explain why he doesn't like the music, and he finally just says, "Too many notes." And the thing about that is while Mozart makes fun of the emperor for his lack of musical knowledge, I always kind of thought the emperor had a good point. When there's too many notes, we can't really hear the music. We just hear noise. What makes notes into music is the space between the notes. What makes noise into poetry is the spirit that permeates the words. The writer E.M. Forster it might not have been E.M. Forster. I apologize. I do not know if this was E.M. Forster or Robert Frost who said, "No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader." And we could just as equally accurately say, no aliveness in the writer, no aliveness in the words. What makes something come to life is that we imbue it with life. Or another way of saying it would be what makes things come to life is life itself, the life force beyond all things that has no form, yet it gives form to all things. So even as I'm speaking now, I encourage you, if you haven't already been doing so, to kind of look around and notice the empty space that you're in and that all the things and wherever you are contained in. Notice the quiet that emerges underneath the words that I'm using. Look to the formless. Look to that which doesn't exist. Look to the space which it sounds ridiculous to even talk about because there's nothing there, no thing there. And you'll start to notice spirit. You'll start to notice the formless. You'll start to sense in an almost sixth sense kind of a way this deeper dimension of life, this world of deeper feeling that always exists simultaneous to and at the essential heart of everything in life. And notice if just taking these 5-6 minutes to presence spirit, to invoke the energy of life, does something for you. And if it does, I encourage you to continue to play with it. Because in my experience, the more time I spend in the presence of presence, in the conscious awareness of the energy of life, in the actual experience of God or spirit, the more alive I feel and the more beautiful life is. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.